presenting or disproving findings. Yeah, so we are we're going to evaluate other findings. We're going to see if we can disprove other findings or at least question the methodology that they used. And there's a lot of, there's plenty of those. So, excuse me. So, okay. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So why, these are kind of similar, but why do we study status? I guess it's kind of the same. But what are some other reasons why is it important to study status? We can think of more that are similar.
I think it makes life easier in a way, rather than looking at things individually. You can just compare them all when it comes to the certain tests. Yeah. Like for instance, to determine, let's say which toothpaste to use, you can run tests and like have subjects and compare.
Right, so toothpaste, like, so we hope, okay, by the time that a toothpaste makes it onto the shelves in the store, that it's been run through tests, it's not poisoned, you know, it tastes good, it has enough fluoride in it, or it doesn't have fluoride in it, depending on, you know, where you fall into that spectrum. So it's tested for a certain population, and it's been through some trials, and hopefully it's set, okay, to be on the list. Or you don't have to do a fancy laboratory study with toothpaste. What else can you and have you probably done? Huh. Who has a toothpaste that they always use? Is there one brand, like, okay? But why? How did you come to that decision about using that toothpaste?
Because the cheapest.
The cheapest. Okay, so all you had to do was look and see the price. Mm-hmm.
By comparing.
Okay, by comparing. So you tried different toothpaste and decided on that one for various reasons.
And for sensitivity.
Sensitivity. So there's a lot of toothpaste for sensitive teeth. Did you try a lot of those?
No, I
Or
just
just-
go for Sensodyne.
Yeah, once it, right.
Like doctor approved
Doctor
or
approved.
dentist approved, something like that.
Uh-oh.
I fall for it.
Oh, no. Okay. Right. And Sensodyne is known for a long time, right? As a good brand, I guess. Okay. So you guys, you know, I love that you're talking about research studies. Ooh. Research studies and analyzing data and having confidence in data. Yes, 100 times yes, all of those things. But you may not realize that you guys already have done research. The choices you've made, the things that you've done, the things that you have in your house, the majors you choose, the people you choose to be around, okay? All of those things and more are based on your own research, okay, that's specific to you. Okay, it's more real world. So you've done tests, but just not in a lab, not in a formal way. Okay, but you've tried toothpaste. You've decided this is the best for you. That was the outcome. Maybe 5 weeks later you decided, no, it's not the right. I don't like it. So then you try another one. Okay, it's all tests. It's the same thing on a smaller scale. It's the same thing we do in the laboratory. Okay, so you guys are already statisticians and you don't know it. Okay, so yes, it makes life easier. We can put things into groups. Our brains like to organize that way. They're structured that way. And so stats does help us do that. Okay, the problem with putting things in groups is what?
How do you categorize?
What do you mean?
I mean, well, when you said the problem with putting things in groups,
Mhm.
it's like how do you define each category? You know?
Okay, so you put groups and like to define the category. If you're trying to measure something or find an average, how do you decide this group is this group is this group, and right, so the labeling and all of that can get a little messy. So sure, putting in groups. Have you ever worked in a group group project in classes? Okay. Anyone have a not so great experience? Eye rolls. What might be an example of a not so great experience?
You have to do all the work.
Right. So groups can be great, okay, because you're going to work together, ideally at the same pace, the same amount, and everyone's happy and joyful about their work together, and they all love each other, okay? But that's not real life, and that should be an average. That should be typical, okay? But it's not, because we're individuals. So when we work in groups, we bring all of our stuff, okay? Our motivation or lack of motivation, our knowledge or confidence. We bring all that to the table. And so now we have individual data points, right? Trying to do one thing, okay? So it ends up that one person usually does a lot more than another person, okay? And that's not ever a good situation. So yes, putting things in groups is a great way to measure, to interpret data, but we also have to be aware of the individual differences within groups, okay? So, so yeah, it makes life easier, but we have to make sure that we account for all of it, okay, before we make any conclusions. Okay. Great. All right. Okay, so just you don't have to write these down. This is more for me, well, and for you, but so try to get through certain things during class, and if I don't, then I kind of know what I did or didn't get through. I have this down. So it's also really good, as far as the educational theory goes, for you guys to know what to expect. So I don't know if you've ever had a teacher, a lot of professors don't do this anymore, but teachers sometimes will write down the agenda for the day, and it kind of helps because you know what's coming up next, instead of, teacher just throwing something at you, you're like, oh my gosh. So you kind of prepared mentally, right? So anyway, so I'll probably throw this up almost every day so that we can know what is happening. Okay, student number 1. All right, so let's look at some, okay, let's give a couple more examples that I found. So most of you, not all of you. Actually, let me back up. How many of you are not psych majors? Did I ask you this before? I did. Okay, so we've been through this. There's a few outliers. That's great. Anyone who's not in the social behavioral sciences, or I guess what I mean, we're going to be working with people directly. Not sure yet, right? Could, maybe not. Okay, good. So one thing is that why you are in this class versus stats for engineering class is because you're working with people, okay? The engineers are working with materials, okay, like metal. If you're running a study with people, they're unreliable, they're messy, they don't always show up, sometimes they're late, sometimes they drop out of the study last minute, sometimes they copy what everyone else is doing, and sometimes they just don't care, and they'll write down whatever they want or do whatever they feel like, if they're feeling kind of silly, okay? Metal, does metal show up? I mean, as long as it was delivered? Yes. Does it give consistent data? For the most part. Okay, so my point is that when we're studying our stats, social and behavioral sciences is special because people are messy. So people have a lot of variability. within people and between people. And so we need to keep that in mind as we go through the semester, that you guys are a different set of people, different set of a different discipline, I should say, than other people. So you're going to study stats from a kind of a different perspective than another group of people from a different discipline. Okay, so that said, I was looking at some articles and I saw several that kind of jumped out at me. Okay, titles that jumped out at me. And one example was a title or an article titled "Why Your Smart Friends Can Seem Like Slackers." Okay, so when I just read that, I immediately thought about my smart friends. Well, I'm the smartest person I know. Just kidding. But I thought about the people that I am around that are really smart, and are they really slackers? Like, I thought people who were smart were like go-getters, type A. And so this was kind of like, oh, it's kind of weird. So I may or may not decide to read through it. Okay. Most people don't. Most people see the titles, and that's it. How many titles of articles and captions of pictures and what have you in social media do you come across? You know those things, the top 10 tricks to, et cetera, okay? All the clickbait out there, okay? Use this to increase or decrease pimples, and they have this really weird looking thing. It's like, ooh, I want to click on that. So we do that all the time. We're attracted to that, okay? It's sexy, all right? So why are smart friends seem like slackers? Well, what do you think was behind this? It seems kind of counterintuitive, okay? That smart people would kind of be like not doing a lot and laid back and just like kind of whatever, not motivated. But what do you think is the real reason for this?
Maybe because they probably didn't have to work hard to actually achieve something. It probably just comes easy.
Oh, okay. So possibly it comes easy, and that happens for some people, right? They just get it right away. Okay. The study itself said that people who have a high cognitive ability, they think a lot. Okay, they analyze a lot more than the average person. So they are a little bit socially awkward because they see things from a kind of different perspective and are constantly thinking about questions and analyzing and talking to people in social situations. You're not doing that. Okay, so they tend to withdraw a little bit from social situations, and they tend to not, be around people a lot. Okay, so that makes it look like they're not doing anything. In reality, they are sitting there and they're thinking, okay, and they're doing things and they're reading things, but they're not slackers. But our perception of what slackers are, our definition, is put up there so that it jumps out. Okay, it's like that doesn't seem right. Okay, so titles can be very misleading, and that's one of the problems. And there's so many titles out there right now that we don't read the articles, we just take it verbatim. Okay. Another example I found was that a title, "Farts Decrease Cancer." Farts decrease cancer. Well, hey, I mean, if anything decrease cancer, I'm kind of interested. All right. That was the title. Okay. So we look at it, okay, and I'm not going to ask you to dig into why flatulence leads to less cancer. But long story short, I mean, it was, you have like a whole hydrogen sulfide, right, is what a fart is. So I don't know why I keep doing this when I say fart. So you eat, right, and then you release some hydrogen sulfate. And normally we have very small amounts of that and those that kind of stays in some of our cells, okay, so no big deal. But it's when there, you know, when we have like, I don't know, there are certain people that have a whole lot, okay, and if you have like a lot of hydrogen sulfide, a large amount of it that sticks to your cells, that actually has been found to sort of affect the cells in a way that it does reduce some kind of heart problems, it reduces some probability of diabetes, etc. Okay, but there was nothing about cancer in that study. Okay, and it said maybe someday we'll find out it will decrease cancer, but it didn't say that it did. Oops. Okay, so that's problematic. Also, drinking champagne decreases cancer. Anything could decrease cancer if we pair it with other fit lifestyle choices. The problem with this champagne is that it was done with rats. So they gave rats champagne, and the sample of rats actually decreased the cancer cells, but it wasn't because of the champagne, it was because of other treatments and the dosage of medication and the makeup of the body of the rats, so et cetera, but yet here's that large statement, drinking champagne decreases cancer, and they're betting on the fact that you, as dumb Americans, are going to take that verbatim and say, oh, we're going to go buy some champagne, lots of champagne, let's get drunk on champagne, because then we won't have cancer. So maybe a champagne company, you know, maybe they sponsored this, who knows, okay? There's always usually an agenda behind these types of like really outlandish types of studies, if you will. Okay, and then one last one I thought was interesting was, the title was women are much more, or no, the outcome was that women are much more likely to have sex when they are not hungry. What do you think about that? Think it's true?
I've actually heard this before,
Oh.
and I don't remember whether I read it or whether someone told me about it, but it basically was like, yeah, if you're starving, obviously that's what you're focusing on. And then if you're not starving, then you have like the cognitive ability to focus on other things.
So if you're hungry, when you're hungry, you don't have a lot of energy to do a lot of things, okay? Especially strenuous things, but anything really, right? You're hungry, and that's all you're focusing. It's a need, it's a basic need. Another problem is that they used only 20 women in this study. So we don't know who the women were, how old they were, really what they asked, okay? So this, though, when you read this, it's like the word sex, the word, you know, more likely to, I mean, that kind of jumps out at us. So these are types of things that we need to question, you know, even if you don't dig into the stats, if there is stats behind it, at least start questioning it, okay? Instead of, you know, forwarding it to someone, okay? So yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So here we go. Populations and samples. So before we run any stats, before, you know, stats does not happen in a vacuum. We don't just say, okay, here's some data, let's calculate it. The point of stats is to find the answer to a question. It's a tool that we use to find the answer to a question. It's not the end-all be-all. It's a means to an end, okay? So when we're interested in a certain group of people, okay, that would be the population, okay? I'm interested in all the students at ASU, okay? Or I'm interested in all men under 40 who have schizophrenia, okay? So I am going to measure them on some variable, but whatever variable it is, first of all, I'm interested in this group, okay? So can someone give me an example of a population of people that you might be interested in knowing more about?
To test the IQ of high schoolers.
Okay, so you're interested in testing the IQ of high schoolers. Any high schooler?
Sure.
Okay, just so general.
Maybe let's do 11th graders.
Okay, so just 11th graders. Okay, so it's a very general question, and I want to, I guess, see what their IQ is. Right? Okay. Okay, so our population is 11th graders. It's pretty broad. That's what we're interested in. Okay, so what are we going to do to find out the IQs?